Welcome to Under the Hood.
And welcome back to another Under the Hood right here today. AI to ROI is what we're looking at. The must-know HubSpot releases from the Spring Spotlight. We're going to dive in deeper, over 200 released, but we're not going to go over the whole 200. We're just going to tell you what you need to know and what you need to care about from Spotlight. This, of course, is the marketing podcast for sales and marketing professionals, where we go under the hood of the latest technology, tools, and trends to help you work smarter. My name's Tony Eades, Chief Strategy Officer for Sorted Stone, and across from me is another famous face because she's been on it before and she's back again. It's Mel.
Thank you, Tony. I'm very excited to be back for Under the Hood and diving into this fast-paced HubSpot Spotlight themed Under the Hood edition.
Yes, and we also have a special guest, as we normally do on our podcast, besides ourselves. So we're actually going to be going across to North America, live from North America, one of our very own. He is the Executive Regional Director for North America for us at Sorted Stone. It is the amazing Brandon Jones.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tony and Mel. Really looking forward to this. I am Brandon Jones. I'm our Executive Regional Director for our North America region. Sorted Stone obviously has 3 different regions: North America, Australia, and our European region. And I effectively manage our North America, that part of the team. My background is in everything from old school graphic design to web development to marketing strategy, consulting, technical solutions work. I've been a bit of a jack of all trades. I've seen a lot of different things in my career. And what I'm excited about with this new Spring Spotlight thing that HubSpot did this year is that they really took a leap forward as a platform and as a partner agency that's really involved in the HubSpot ecosystem. Obviously, it's very exciting whenever the platform that we work on the most takes a big leap forward like this. So excited to talk about that today.
Awesome. Good to have you on the show, Brandon. And I think it would have been shorter and easier if you said what you didn't do or haven't done rather than all the things you've done, because there's so much there. But great introduction, and look forward to our chat today. Now, for those that don't know and thinking, well, what is Spotlight? Well, Spotlight is HubSpot's biannual product showcase. And this time it promises to deliver better results faster and even more than ever before. As I mentioned before, last month there were over 200 plus platform releases and updates. So we're going to kind of tie down a little bit and focus on it. But first, Brandon was actually in the room with the CEO there, Yamini Rangan, and also Andy as well. He's the EVP product at Spotlight Live. So Brandon, let's start at a high level. What are the themes or takeaways that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I would say, and first and foremost, if you've ever been to Inbound, this is a different event. This is smaller. This is more intimate. This is a lot more of a tight narrative structure in the way that they manage this event. The things that really stuck out to me is if you kind of read through that narrative that HubSpot was telling through their 200 feature updates, it really tells a story about where they see the vision of this company going and where they see the vision of where AI fits into their platform. Obviously, every software company in the world right now is trying to kind of wrap their heads around that. Some are doing really well. Some are maybe struggling a little bit with that. And I think that's the number one thing that really jumped out at me is that HubSpot has a very strong, clear vision for where they want to go, where they see AI integrating into their tools. And that's something that certainly is evident across all these feature updates that we saw announced.
Awesome. Now, of course, there's been plenty of spotlights in the past. Now, we weren't in the room, Mel, unfortunately. We didn't get an invite and a flight ticket, so Brandon was a lot closer to the action. But in your opinion, how does this particular spotlight, from what you've seen, compare to others?
Yeah, I'm definitely echoing Brandon's thoughts. It feels like the last kind of release of AI features were teasing the world into try and bringing them forward. This spotlight very much feels like usability, accessibility, like how you can apply AI in your business in the most practical forms. We weren't in the room, but as usual, HubSpot Spotlight website has a fantastic amount of videos and intros, and definitely gave you a taste into, a multitude of the 200 plus features they released and give you a bit of a taste as to what you want to dive into, some options for even us and our business and what we should be applying to our HubSpot sort of account. So very excited to see that practical lens, but also it feels accessible. Like it doesn't feel hard or scary. You know, I know our last podcast we spoke about this idea of AI fear and a lot of businesses being quite hesitant to dive in. This definitely feels like tomorrow you could open the books up and start to have real impact.
Yeah, I think that's an important part because, you're talking about the podcast with Nicholas Holland, of course, and we did go into detail. If you haven't actually seen that podcast, then check it out, because we talked about, and I actually asked Nicholas about why aren't businesses just jumping in, feet and all into AI? And I think to your point, Mel, it's that fear factor. It's kind of like, where do I even start? And then you go along to this spotlight, and just when you're kind of thinking about, well, maybe I should get started, HubSpot released another 200 plus things that you're supposed to get around. So I suppose, Brandon, just honing it into our audience, what do you think overall from Spotlight is really there to help empower, particularly B2B marketers and salespeople, from the releases that you saw?
Yeah, I think it's important to put this into context. We're obviously on an arc here, and that's something that Yamini talked about early in her segment of the Spotlight. Is this kind of like looking at, the early adopters? You kind of have that first curve, and then you kind of hit to the top of the bell curve where the most people are adopting, and then you're going to have the people on the back end that are a little bit more resistant to it that eventually adopt. We're still on the early part of that curve, but we're not at the very beginning, right? And I want you all, to the extent that you've been involved in using any AI tools over the last, 2 or 3 years, remember what it was like, right? And that's something that they talked about a little bit, that back in the day, and I say this like it was 20 years ago, but it was just 2, you had to really almost have like borderline engineering skills to really interact with these AI tools. You had a number of people that were using these tools a lot that would think of themselves as content prompters, or even they might call themselves prompt engineers, where they were really designing the way that they would get certain outputs out of the AI. And it took a fairly high skill level, right? There was a learning curve there that was somewhat steep, that made it more difficult for people to access these tools. Now, I want to bring that around to HubSpot. HubSpot has their own perspective on how these AI tools should be used. And it's their position, at least as we understand it through the lens of the Spotlight, that they don't want people to need to have that technical knowledge to really be able to use these tools. So they have really brought a lot of these things into the platform. I would almost frame this as they're democratizing AI by bringing a lot of those powerful tools and dropping it directly into the tools that people already know and love, that they're familiar with. So that's really what we saw there, is that they're kind of bringing these tools to people in a way that makes them a lot more usable, and effectively just makes them better tools, because you get the power of AI without necessarily needing that deep technical knowledge about how the AI actually works.
Yeah, I think that's important because there's so many AI tools out there. I think we've mentioned you lose count. Well, 7,000 I read once had just been released in the last 12 months or so. So it makes it even more complex when you've got to go out of the HubSpot portal. And I think HubSpot, I've always said, since we've been involved with HubSpot, the name is in what they do. It's HubSpot, everything that you can possibly have in one spot. So you kind of log in. And it was good to see that there were updates for all the hubs, well, Marketing Hub, Sales Hub, and Service Hub all got some upgrades, which was fantastic. It was good to see Marketing Hub again, because you've heard me say, like in the past, it's kind of like, what happened to Marketing Hub? You guys have been bringing out new hubs like Commerce Hub and Content Hub and all this kind of, what about poor old Marketing Hub? That was the very first hub you had, and then we built on it, and it just felt it hadn't had some love in the last year or two, and especially in this update. I think Marketing Hub has had some updates. So Mel, Breeze Agents. Now I know you've been kind of having a bit of a look at that, but who do you think can really take advantage off the bat of Breeze Agents?
There's an agent for everyone. I read a statistic the other day that agents have already answered like 50% of the customer support inquiries within HubSpot. Like 50%. That's just huge. Like half of someone's tedious job. There feels like there's an agent for everyone. There's Breeze, there's content agents, there's a bunch of things. It just comes down to what are the low level tasks that everyone has on their list that are required for a business to function. How could you be using AI to answer things smarter and more efficient? The agents are really interesting because they're learning now, and you could they're starting to take the information that customers are asking them and starting to use their intelligence to evolve. It is a super interesting and exciting time to dive into agents if you haven't already.
How far are we from the make the perfect coffee agent or take my dog for a walk agent?
Yeah,
soon, next release?
Maybe, you know.
We can only hope. Brandon, how many agents have you deployed?
Oh gosh, inside of HubSpot, only just a handful of them so far, but we're beginning to really dabble with them specifically at Salt and Stone North America to kind of figure out where we're going to integrate them. Preview, we are working on a new website. That's something that we're considering. Where does that new AI agent live within the website? What is it going to do? What is it going to look like to interact with that sort of thing? But outside of that, I would say we've really been messing around with a lot of different AI tools. Sales agents to really kind of be a coach for our sales team. Legal agents to kind of like support us if we're redlining a contract. We found a number of different applications where we're kind of training custom agents both inside and outside of HubSpot to basically do custom tasks for us. Now, obviously, we think of AI agents almost like we might think of interns, right? These are not, there to displace people. They're not going to replace people that have really high skill levels. They're there to support our team. They're there to kind of cut down the amount of time it takes to get certain complex tasks completed.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about often the AI sandwich, isn't it? The human, the AI, the human. And to Brandon's point, if they're just coming in, they need to be taught, they need to be, brought into your business, learn the way you are. So always remember that human, AI, human. It's in the prompts, it's in the strategy even of where you're going to deploy these agents, then let them do the heavy lifting and a bit of work, but then obviously check their work to make sure that they're on brand and doing what you hope they're going to do to make your life easier, not harder. Some of the updates included Marketing Hub, as I mentioned before, leveled up enterprise. There's always been this kind of, not a big enough reason to perhaps in some ways to upgrade to enterprise. Now they're making it as it should be. It's an enterprise product, which is great, workspaces, etc. So let's dive in deeper. We've kind of skated around the surface of some of these. As I did say to you, 200 plus. If you want to check them all out, you've got plenty of time to do it. Please do. We're only going to highlight the ones we think are valuable to you. So Mel, we're going to start with you. We're actually going to go into that Marketing Hub enterprise enhancements and ask you what you found. Like, what stood out to you that made this marketing now more of an enterprise tool?
So much good stuff. My background, for those that don't know, is in marketing. I'm a marketing director by trade. So to have the hub that I love most, Marketing Enterprise, receive a bit of a facelift is really exciting. First off the back of the list is multi-account management. We know so many businesses that have multiple brands, multiple businesses, and it's really, there's a need to segment, but this idea of multi-account management gives you a singular customer view. So you can put the walls up when you need to put them up. You can share the data and the information when you want to share. It's really going to give businesses a look and an insight of, what's traditionally been either a manual process or a workaround to go in and try and stitch the data together. It's going to be a big game changer, I think, for marketers and really understanding across all brands and customers the commonalities for their business.
I'm glad you explained that, because I thought multi-account management meant that we didn't have to hire any more account managers. Each account manager would be multiplied, but it's not quite that.
No, we always need account managers at Salt and Stone. We always need account managers.
Go the account managers.
We have a fabulous team globally. So yeah, this is something that for us, like, we've got businesses in North America, in Europe, in Australia, and we talk about our customers being a little bit different, but this is something we could absolutely apply to our account, find the commonalities and across globally. Who is the ultimate Salt and Stone customer?
Yeah. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Rather than the ones that aren't. Yeah. Brandon, journey automation. I mean, that had you written all over it, mate, because it's got the word automation in it, and we always talk about the whole journey. So what did that mean to you?
Yeah, definitely. Journey automation for me was one of the more exciting features because it's really an evolution of something that we've already known and loved within HubSpot. You are likely already familiar with the workflow tools and the way that that kind of looks visually. It's a very logical, straightforward tool. But something that HubSpot's been kind of thinking about behind the scenes has clearly been, what does this look like in the future? And I don't know if you're aware of it, but Gartner released a study about a year ago that basically said 25% of all search traffic is going to be gone by 2026. And I think a lot of the way that people have typically looked at the marketing funnel, the flywheel, in the past has been in a very linear sort of way. And yet the way that we're seeing users and customers interact with brands nowadays is often a little bit harder to predict. It's often not moving from point A to B to C. They could go from A to Z, back to N, over to F, and it's a little bit more difficult to manage that kind of stuff. And that's what this new journey automation tool is really built for, right? It's built to kind of understand more complex journeys. It's built to kind of anticipate that people might go in a little bit more unpredictable pathways, and be able to have a lot of really good data, a lot of analytics behind how people are actually completing their journeys with a brand is something that's really special, and something I think demonstrates that HubSpot understands what is changing in the world in 2025.
That's amazing, isn't it? Was it 25% you said from Gartner? Is going to get lost in search. So 25% less people are going to be finding you through a search engine.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're moving over to AI customer agents. They're moving over all sorts of different tools. But the world is changing, and we as marketers definitely need to adapt to that.
SEO, the SEM, it's just a different way of thinking, right? The buyer journey is not linear anymore by any kind of any stretch of the imagination, and it's really interesting, this tool, to be able to craft adaptive journeys and provide those real-time analytics around what customers are actually engaging in and how they're getting to hopefully the end of your buyer funnel.
I know we've often talked. I can't remember when we first started talking about omnichannel marketing. It seems like forever. We've been talking about it.
Yeah, that was the buzzword.
And that's when it started to become less linear. To Brandon's point there, and sort of all over the shop. We've got visuals that kind of show this, but even more now, especially with 25%. Changing from the traditional journey that we were all used to, is just put a whole bunch of stuff into SEO. And as long as you come up number one on Google, it's obviously not now just number one on Google, or certainly not from a search perspective. So we talked about agents. Let's go in a little bit deeper. Brandon, one of your favorite subjects, AI-powered breeze agents. Take us through a couple that kind of caught your eye.
Yeah, three of them really jumped out at me: the content agent, the prospecting agent, and the customer agent. And let's just talk about one of them. The content agent, I think, is the one that's the most exciting for me. Partially because as an AI early adopter, I certainly have used some of the very earliest iterations of this tool. And I'll admit, the very first time I kind of used the content agent a long time ago, several months ago, a little bit rough around the edges, right? You would kind of go in there, you put something in there, and you kind of wait to see what the response was going to be. Sometimes it was accurate. Sometimes you would kind of giggle about it a little bit of comedy in there. Because I think these AI tools really still kind of like figuring themselves out. The people engineering them are still figuring out, how do you design it in a way that's actually going to resonate with the voice, with the content, with the audience that a brand is ultimately looking for, right? That's what we've got to get to. And yet the new AI content agent is something that I think the comedy is out of the room now, right? Mm-hmm. This is the first time that I really went in there and realized, oh my goodness, like I can actually see myself using this. I can see my team using this. I can see my clients using this, right? Continuing with that narrative, like the skill level has come way down. And the way that HubSpot is talking about this is a little bit more like they're giving marketers a running start, right? So the new content agent works in a way where you basically go in there, you talk about what topic that you want to produce a piece of content on. It is going to ask you a couple questions, right? It's going to ask you, what industry vertical are you focusing on? Tell us a little bit about what buyers you're focusing on attracting or speaking to. From there, it kind of gives you an outline, and that outline is something that is very interactive, right? I can actually refine it. It's working with my natural workflow. It's not trying to immediately fast forward me to the end. Here's your blog article, for instance. It's kind of walking me through and working with me. It's collaborating with me in a way that feels like I'm almost curating what the final result is going to be. And then the other really cool addition to this is it actually has the ability now to upload documents. So we have a lot of clients where we produce very technical copywriting, right? Very difficult work, very, work that you don't want to trust as any old, chat GPT to produce that content for you. We do a lot of research. We do a lot of sourcing of materials to figure out how do we produce high quality content. You can now upload a white paper, for instance, an ebook. You can upload all sorts of different documents into the same content agent tool, and it will take that into account in a way that really improves the final results.
That's amazing. And one of the things I'm thinking about here as well is because someone might have missed, I don't know, obviously I caught it because I'm very much, as Brandon said earlier, Doctor, I'm very much into now video AI in the avatar world and all that kind of stuff. So HeyGen, as an update back at Inbound, is connected to HubSpot, and I'm hoping will actually go into the content agent in terms of helping you do content. The latest release is Avatar 4, which enables you amazingly, I've already tested this with Mel and others, and Brandon, you're going to get one soon as well. You basically use a photograph of someone and it will actually create an animated voiced version like it's an avatar, and it's not that bad, and all it's used is the photo, but the head moves around, the arms, everything moves around from one photo. I'll send you an example, Brandon, but again, thinking about how content doesn't have to be documents, downloads, whatever, it can actually be video. Video's always been very powerful in marketing. Now with a little bit of a trickle of AI and a sprinkle of this, you can come up with some amazing things. It's crazy. What else you had? Prospecting and customer, quick comments on those?
Yeah, and again, both of these tools are really built to support teams in their natural workflow. So the prospecting agent in this particular case accelerates sales outreach. So imagine that you're not a marketer in this case, but you're somebody that's on a sales team. This agent is going to help you by researching your target accounts, providing personalized communication for them, and providing insights into specific buyer communities or committees, I should say. And ultimately, it just helps you develop your pipeline in a way that's going to move a lot more quickly. And then the customer agent is one that we're specifically looking at possibly for the Salt and Stone website, but it's certainly applicable to almost all of our clients. This is going to enhance customer support by resolving inquiries a lot more quickly, right? Rather than kind of like relying on a ton of different channels, we have clients that try to do customer support through Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or email or all sorts of different things. Like, this is really going to consolidate all those down into a single tool that's going to be able to resolve a lot of that stuff and then get better over time, right? So on day one, the customer agent, you're going to kind of provide it with some training materials and help answer some of those questions that your customers might have. But you also have the ability to very quickly route it over to a human being, right? So if you have a question that comes in and you haven't trained the agent on how to fix it, you can have it basically pass it over to your customer support team. But if that customer support team, let's say they get that question 5 times in a row, they might say, we are done answering this question for this type of customer. We're just going to document that. We're going to train the agent so that it answers that next time. So that if you look out 12 months down the line, your agent is going to be answering a lot more tickets than it was on day one. So that idea of being able to kind of train these agents and have them improve over time is something that I think is pretty darn exciting.
Very exciting indeed. And, you know, you can be like Mel or you can be like Brandon and actually do all the research and watch the videos and read the Spotlight releases, or you can be like me and just stumble upon it by accident, which is what I did with Sales Workspace, the AI-powered workspaces that are in there, because I went in there, as you do, because sales is part of what I do here in APAC. So I jump into HubSpot as you plan to, and I thought, where's everything gone? I can't find my deals. I can't find this. I go, oh, HubSpot has lovely put them in to this beautiful sales workspace for me. So check that out if you are in sales. Sales teams can now centralize everything in one particular platform, access lead information, prioritize tasks. That's a good one for me, Mel, isn't it? Prioritizing
absolutely.
tasks.
Absolutely. Yep.
Or at least getting them done.
I don't have to prioritize them for you anymore. HubSpot tells you.
HubSpot tells me. Execute actions efficiently, all guided by the wonderful AI insights of HubSpot.com.
Yeah.
Customer success workspace. Now, I'm sure you've stumbled across that or you've researched it heavily.
Absolutely. It's interesting, the workspaces, whether it be sales, customer success or help desk, they're like a dashboard. So no matter what hat you're wearing within a business, you come in, log into HubSpot, and if you're a sales guy, everything's there, and it's like your centralized platform. Whether it's customer success is the same sort of vein, where it's your go-to platform. You log in, everything's there, the priorities are there. You don't have to click off to find this and find that and go into an inbox. It is really taking the best of the customer tools or the sales tools and putting them into one place. And if you haven't had a chance to even just open it up, click around, I highly encourage you.
Yeah,
it'll
cool.
change your job. It'll make it
change
much
your life.
quicker. Change your life. It'll change my life if I'm not
well, it's changed mine.
If I'm not chasing Tony for CRM updates. Absolutely, it'll change my life.
But I think that goes back to what we were saying before at the beginning of the show is really about how HubSpot has looked at how people use HubSpot and how it works in their organizations and in their life, in their particular role, and kind of centralized everything into these one spots. So, Brandon, workspaces for you, do you think that's a game changer?
Yeah, definitely. If you think of where HubSpot has been in the past, it's often felt like you have to do a lot of clicking, right? They've built an outstanding tool that can do a lot of different things, but to kind of like manage all this stuff, like often have to have 4 or 5 different tabs open, all of them on HubSpot, but in different places. And if you kind of think about it as like, imagine like a piece of paper that has a bunch of dots. You have a dot here, a dot there, a feature there, a feature there, but they all have kind of felt like they're somewhat siloed. You know that they're all unified on the back end by the CRM, but there really hasn't been a single place that you feel like is your workspace, right? I'm using this both in the feature sense and in the literal sense. These new workspaces really kind of feel like they're just going to be more efficient. They become your command center, right? You're going to log in the morning, and there's a single place that you can go to kind of manage all of that stuff. And sure, you might click down some of those different dots that you had in the past to do some of that work. But now you have a consolidated space that brings that information into you in a way that just feels like it's going to be a lot more efficient. It's going to be a lot more powerful. And it certainly feels like it's going in a direction that's going to make getting that work done, making the daily workload for individual people, whether it's sales or customer success or what have you, it's going to make that a lot easier.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this update is something for sales, service and marketers. So Brandon, in your opinion, what do you think is going to be the biggest impact in how sales, service and marketing teams operate?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I would say it's if your team is on HubSpot and if you guys have bought in to all 3 of those, it's the ability to see that full narrative, that full life cycle, right? If you are a salesperson, being able to kind of see all the background of what marketing materials a lead has interacted with, that gives you really critical information, right? That's something that's been true last year and certainly is getting better and better over time. But by being able to kind of service that, sales reps can now have much more informed conversation with their leads, right? They don't need to be so cold and so stiff. They can now say, hey, I noticed you've been on this page on our website 10 times in the last month. Do you want to talk about that, right? And you kind of have ways to kind of warm up into a real human conversation that I think is just going to make things work a lot better for a lot of teams. Well, that same thing is true for the customer service rep as well. Being able to kind of see that full journey of where they were in marketing, where they were in sales, what was discussed, and then kind of like help support them and deliver success at the service side of things is certainly going to be better as well. Whether you're delivering an actual service like a law firm or something like that, or if you're delivering an actual product, you can kind of see that full narrative in a way that I think ultimately allows you to kind of close that loop and provide a better level of service in all 3 areas.
Actually, like how I've asked like a number of questions to Brandon and to yourself, and you asked one question, he says, that's a good question. So
it's a quality, not quantity.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, let me ask you a question then, Mel. Are there any risks that you see in businesses who don't move quickly, right? Because again, we said at the very beginning, it's just this adoption of AI, jumping into AI, being part of AI. But now they've got even more to go, but it sounds like it's more user-friendly. HubSpot has always been number one for user friendliness in terms of that's how it's built. That's how it's always been, unlike some of their competitors, which we won't mention. So what are the risks if they don't adopt AI?
A lot of the themes of this particular spotlight were around ununified data, moving fast, innovation, insights. I mean, the risks are you're going to be left in the dark. Like you're going to be left manually doing processes and answering questions and customer queries when your competitors have already got agents, looking for your customer audience, looking to self-service. Like we don't always want to talk about a human or talk to a human from a service perspective. So not adopting the AI is putting things back to kind of that manual age and that human error, but also, from a sales and marketing perspective, not including like singular customer views, insights, being able to understand what your customers are actually asking for in real time, unobjectively. I think as business marketers and sales professionals, we're really good at having an opinion on who our customer is or what they want or what content we should be producing or what shows we should be and topics we should be covering and under the hood. Being able to adopt some of these insights and interacting and looking like hard, cold facts. This is what people are clicking on. This is how they're progressing from an MQL to an SQL. This is what you need in your journey. So by not adopting the agents and the AI and having a look at workspaces and trying to make your teams work more efficiently and faster, I think you risk just being left behind and needing more resources, more time, slower decisions. I mean, they're all the things that come to my mind.
I think you're missing as well the sandwich, the human, AI, human. Otherwise, it's going to be AI, human. And then your job gets smaller and smaller. But I think in essence, from what I'm hearing from today, I mean, the releases in particular from Spotlight are actually making you smarter and more efficient, right? It's actually helping you do your job better. It's not replacing your job. And this has always been the talk about, is AI coming to take my job? But I think, would you agree, Brandon? It's kind of like these things are there to help you become smarter at what you're doing by seeing the data and the workspaces, but also become more efficient by deploying agents to do some of that heavy lifting you would do day in and day out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We see that certainly, within our team, we see it within our client organizations. We see it out there in the wider world right now. I think a lot of companies are struggling. When do you dip your toes in? When do you fully commit? Do you have a few people on your team that are maybe the early adopters, and then you introduce it to a wider team? There's 100 different ways that you can deploy AI within your organization, that you can really adopt some of these tools that HubSpot has built and all the other tools that are out there. I think ultimately you just got to kind of understand that, at least if you're anyone that's like me, you don't want to pay the tax of the very first adopter, right? The people that are out there trying to adopt these tools at the bleeding edge. That's just not for me. I don't have the time for it. A lot of our client organizations don't have the time to kind of be there at the place where a lot of the things that people are doing very likely might end up being mistakes or a waste of time. You also don't want to be the last to be adopting either, right? You don't want to pay that tax on that side where everybody else has gotten there first. So you got to find what that sweet spot is for your organization, for your team. But I would say we're really kind of getting closer to a place where I think more and more organizations, if they're not adopting these tools, if they're not embracing, if they're not at least exploring how they can benefit their teams, they are going to begin to fall behind it. But I don't see it as AI replacing those people, those teams, those organizations. I see it more as you kind of have a survival of the fittest sort of thing going on, where the teams, the individuals that are adopting AI are beginning to kind of level up above the people that are not. So there certainly is a little bit of a level of urgency to begin to get comfortable with these tools. And that's the last thing I would kind of say on this point is think of them as tools. A lot of people, when they think about AI, they really fixate on the I part of that. And they forget about the A, right? They think these are very intelligent tools when in actuality, think about it like a hammer or a screwdriver, right? You wouldn't go to build a woodworking project if that's something that you're into without having those sorts of tools. That's how we got to think about these AI things as well. They don't need to be intimidating. They don't need to be overwhelming. But the more that we use them, the more that we get that practice, the more comfortable we become, and the better we find ways to weave them into our native workflows.
Yep, some good points there, and also how to get started. Like, don't be scared of it. I like the point there that Brandon makes. They are tools. In the same way as you would go to, I don't know, if you're not a tradie, like I'm not much, but I do try to do a little bit of it. You go to your toolkit and you just start with a tool that does the job for you. Without the tool, it can be a disaster, I think. Well, the next part of it, talking about tools, is our toolkit segment. And basically what this is each guest that comes on the show, including Mel and I, have to share with you an interesting, a topically relevant tool. Ideally, it could be from HubSpot, but I don't follow any rules here, that we can share with you. One that we've tried and tested and one we think you love. This is a segment called The Toolkit. And yes, it is toolkits. This is where we dive into the under-the-counter toolkits that we've got. We drag them in each week. In fact, they're not even like that now because they're mostly digital. They're mostly AI. They're not even physical anymore. It's not the physical toolkit. So let's start off with Mel. What do you have in your toolkit this week?
I'm on brand in the episode, and I've dived into my HubSpot toolkit, and I've put out Breeze Content Agent. I know Brandon spoke about it a little bit in the earlier in the episode, but for me, it's really it's a game changer. You've got the ability to. We hear so much that teams are time poor, they need content. whether it be something laborious like metadata descriptions or providing a whole bunch of SEO-rich articles, or within the buyer journey, writing downloadable assets. Something like Breeze Content Agent is definitely going to help smaller teams level up. We've spoken before about 70% of the buyer journey is completed before a prospect even speaks to you, which means that your content, in whatever form it is, whether it be video, audio, written, or a combination, like our podcast here, it has to be out there, and there's a high volume of content required for buyer journeys, and buyer personas are no longer quite linear. So having a smart AI tool like our Content Agent is really going to be helpful for both smaller teams and just teams that have like high volumes of content requirements.
Okay, and you find that in HubSpot?
That's in HubSpot. It's one of the marketing enterprise updates from Spotlight. So
brilliant, well done. That's how you find it, rather than stumble across it like me. Brandon, what is in your toolkit? Everyone wants to know.
All right, so I've got two, maybe three, but they're all on the same topic.
This is fun when you have a good guest.
He's got a bigger toolkit than us, I'm feeling. I think his is much wider. All right, fire away.
Yeah, so I don't know about you. I spend a lot of my days in calls. So what we've been really exploring a lot lately is just different call recording softwares, different tools to kind of provide transcripts and note takers and that kind of stuff. Right now, the three that we're kind of messing around with are both. I'll start with Zoom. Zoom is a tool that Salt and Stone has been using for ages now. We were at the very beginning of kind of their user base. And they're developing some interesting tools in terms of how they're tracking this stuff. And there's pros and cons to it that work and don't work. The new tool that we're messing around with the most right now is called Otter. Also, something that is just very interesting. And I like a lot of the AI things that they're doing. Specifically, they have something called templates, where you kind of get your call transcription the way that you do with any of these tools at the end of your call. But this one is a template where if you know it's a sales call, you can apply the sales template and it will pull out different things in that summary than what you would pull out if you were having a one-on-one with an internal team member, right? Or if you're having an exploratory call with a client or something like that. And having those templates is something that I think is really intriguing. The third one, though, is the HubSpot call recording software, which is yet another call tool that we're kind of playing around with, kicking the tires and seeing, what are the benefits of having that? Well, obviously, the main benefit of it, if it's in HubSpot, it's in your CRM, it's right there in those records. And something that I would just kind of like encourage everybody is you don't need to pick one at the beginning, right? Lots of people, kind of burden themselves with this decision of, do I pick this or do I pick that? Something I would kind of encourage teams to do, to the extent that this works within your team culture, is try a couple, see what works about both. Talk to both of the product teams and talk about, hey, we're seeing this and this one. Is there any way that we could get that out of the separate tool? Having that different angles, different perspectives on the problem that you're trying to solve is something that I think is ultimately elevating all these tools at once. And it certainly gives you a lot more exposure than just picking one and going down that road without at least exploring for a little bit what the others have to offer.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a whole bunch in there, and obviously we all make calls. We're all doing calls, whether they be sales calls, internal calls, meetings, whatever it might be. So if we can make life easier of wrapping up a call, recording a call, summarizing a call.
Absolutely. I actually spent quite a bit of time the other night in Otter, like with the templates. I bit the bullet and I was like, I'm just going to spend an hour and a half in here, like just running the gauntlet. Did you come out at
the other end, or are you still in there?
It was actually really good. We've got very specific clients that have very specific kind of call structures and things that come out of it. So I took it one step further and built a generic kind of client service call template, but then I built individual ones for individual businesses and applied the rules to them. So when you've got certain email addresses, things get filed away in certain orders. But it was really interesting to see. I've had a couple of customer calls with two very different customers and clients this week, and have two very different sets of meeting notes that come out of it and different insights. So I echo that, Brandon. That was templates for me was a game changer. It's brought my usage of the tool up quite significantly. So
awesome. Well, I'll finish up and obviously not be on brand. Well, actually, you'd be surprised, Mel, because I am kind of on brand, because I'm increasing the ecosystem of HubSpot, right? Because this does connect and work well with HubSpot. We talked about omnichannel marketing earlier on today. So omnikey.com, that's OMNEKEY.com, KY leverages generative AI to create professional omni-channel campaigns. It's true. AI-driven creative and ad design are packed in there so it can use your brand guidelines, which is important. It all starts with the brand and performance data to generate strategic ad briefs and design editable, high-performing creative. So it can kind of do a lot of the stuff or part of the stuff. You can give those briefs to your content or creative team and they can go from there. The platform also analyzes top content to inform messaging, visuals, and layouts. So you're constantly looking at data to enhance the messaging that you're going to be putting across. Omnichannel campaign launch. You then generate, optimize, deploy ads across multiple platforms based on all of that intel that you've just seen or heard of, like Meta, Google, and TikTok. And then finally, real-time performance analytics. So it's done all that heavy lifting. And now the last point is, how's it going to give us the report? So you can gain a 360-degree, that ultimate view of ad performance with actionable insights that can help you. You can track results. You can identify trends, which is good. Love all that data. Continuously improve everything that you're doing across your campaigns through data-driven decisions. And all of that and more for just $20 to $79 a month. Sounds like I'm selling a 7-day free trial, but you got to put your credit card in. I hate that.
Are there some steak knives included in that deal?
I did look further.
Yeah.
As soon as it said 7-day free trial, I thought great, and then it says put your credit card in. I'm saying, hang on, it's free. But that's how they get you in. Obviously, you forget about our subscriptions. But check it out. That's omneky.com. Connects with HubSpot. HubSpot then captures the leads from One Key campaigns, automates nurturing workflows, and tracks ROI. So the whole thing can kind of work together. Just increases the ecosystem and the power of HubSpot, which is fantastic. Well, I think that's all we have time for. It's been an action-packed show today. First and foremost, Brandon, thank you very much. Hopefully, I was going to say we can get you back on because you and I are going to be at the next updates, unless they're coming before, at Inbound 2025 in San Fran. Yeah?
I love it.
Yeah, very excited about that. First year in San Francisco, first year that it's not in Boston. Certainly going to be a different crowd, a different event. Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah. And we may even be doing a under the hood from the venue or from nearby if we can. We're still working on logistics, but I'm lucky enough to be an Inbound correspondent, which is one of 40 that's going to be reporting on the excitement and all the releases, and we'll be bringing to you through various channels, but certainly through this one.
You're going to be running around with your reporter hat behind the scenes.
Can I get a press thing? You know, the old press.
You're going to create your own badge. I know it. And he's going to have the little ticket in a fedora. Brandon, I'm relying on you to make sure he...
To wheel him in. Yeah, no chance. Okay, so for any of those HubSpot product releases from the Spring Spotlight, if you want to check them all out, not just the ones we've gone, go to hubspot.com/spotlight. We'll put that link in the notes at the bottom of this episode. If you've missed an episode, where have you been? Like, they're as good as this. You know, so come and check out some of the last episodes that we have had, including that wonderful one with HubSpot's head of AI and other things, Nicholas Holland. That was good. That was our last podcast. And we've got a HubSpotter coming on the next one as well. So just make sure that you go to silverstone.com/under-the-hood. Again, the link is in below. And also don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode again. You're never in that position. You're up to date with all the latest tools and tricks from us at Under the Hood. We'll see you next time.